Master of Fire, The First Encounter. Written and performed by Zigora Keel. I began communicating with Fire online after we met playing a game on our phones. She was one of the few people that I instantly connected with. Her personality is lively and her heart made of gold. Fire looks after the clan and helps anyone with their game. But I knew that there was more to her story, and I was determined to learn. Talking in the group page eventually led to talking in private chat. My gamer ID started with the word Master, and I could not help but feel a level of excitement each time she started the conversation addressing me as Master. After a long period of getting to know Fire and her secret desires, I decided it was time to make them a reality. I finally received my passport and could book a flight to travel halfway across the world. I've never actually spoken to her before and could not even guess what her voice sounds like. As our online discussions grew more personal, she eventually sent close-up pictures of my favorite parts of her body, but it would be the first time to really know how she looks. Exhausted from my flight, I took a taxi to rest away the jet lag. I knew that our first time together was going to be an experience to remember for the rest of our lives. After a long night's rest, I set out to pick up supplies that I didn't dare try to take on the airplane. I had to ensure that I could fulfill a fantasy that she had only shared with me. After stopping at the hardware store, grocery store, and an awfully hard-to-find adult novelty shop, I was ready to set the plans into action. Fire was set to come to my hotel room at 3 p.m. Her mother was taking her kids for the evening, and her husband, who lived his own separate life, was unlikely to ever stop by her flat to even know she was missing. At 2:55, I turned off the lights and placed a few candles around the room. Then I waited. Right on time, I heard a knock on my door. My heart was racing with excitement. I had to center myself so I could focus on her pleasure and her fantasy. I went to the door and asked, "Fire, is that you?" Yes, Master, it is," she replied. "Before I open the door, I want you to turn around and face away. Lace your fingers together and place them on the top of your head. Do you understand? Our native languages are not the same. I wanted to ensure she knows exactly what I'm asking of her." I'm ready, Master," she called out. Slowly, I opened the door. She tried to turn around, but I grabbed her shoulders and abruptly stopped her. I pulled a blindfold from the table by the doorway and slipped it over her head. I could feel her muscles tense up, as she knew this was real, and she was nervous. I pulled her inside the room and kissed her, forcing her to keep her hands right where they were, despite her attempts to put them around me. She was wearing a cute sundress with nothing on underneath. I pulled it over her head and tossed it on the floor. "Good girl. You followed the instructions I gave you about your allowed clothing. Remember one thing. Your safe word is red." Yes, Master," she said. I carefully used the fresh rope to bind her wrists together. I left her standing for a moment, naked as the day she was born, with her wrists tied up, unable to see what was going on. Finally, I got a long, good look at her body. She is beautiful, inside and out. I reached to her and started running my fingertips all over her body, slowly caressing her skin, making sure that every nerve ending is awake and ready to feel. Fire has never allowed herself to be in this position before. She's never trusted anyone or given up control. Every inch of her skin was reddened with nervousness. She was quite rightly feeling very exposed. But as her muscles began to relax, I knew that she was really bringing her trust forward. I turned her around where her back was facing the bed and lowered her down where she was sitting on the edge. I picked up an extremely soft plush elephant that I had found at the airport gift shop and began caressing her body with that. The way she moved her body to give me more access showed me just how much she enjoyed it. I sat the soft plush elephant on the bed next to Fire and climbed on, sitting right behind her. I gathered her hair together, then pulled her head to the side and started kissing her neck. Chills were shooting across her body as she began to moan with pleasure. She tried to straighten up her body, but my grip is too strong, and I intended keeping her head exactly where I wanted it. I reached for the ice bucket that was waiting by the bed. I held a cube between my fingers and rubbed it against her lips. Fire tried to slurp the melting water as it ran down her chin. I ran the corner of the ice cube along the same trail left behind the melted ice. As more drops of water ran down her neck, I raced to drink them up, licking and kissing her neck along the way. I guided Fire backwards and laid her down on the bed, placing an ice cube between my teeth and climbing on top of her. With the ice in my mouth, I kissed her nipples. I could feel them evolve from soft peaks into tight, erect points. I tossed the ice cube aside so I could give each erect nipple better attention. I held a nipple tightly with my lips, then let them go so I could feel their surface against my tongue. Reaching up with my hands, I hold each nipple with my thumb and index finger. I squeezed each nipple firmly, applying just enough pressure to be felt intensely. I pulled outward, just giving them a bit of a stretch before letting them slip out of my grasp. I watched them as the blood rushed back in, returning them to their original color. Fire moaned again with delight. As I watched her body, looking for physical signs, I smiled. She wanted to experience that sensation again. Fire arches her back while trying to push her breasts forward, as if to beg me to return to them. I reach out again and pinch her nipples just a bit more firmly than before. Her mouth opened and she took a deep breath in. As I released the pressure, she slowly let out her deep breath. I looked down and watched her moving her hips in a circular motion, as if she's calling me down that way. I gripped her ankles and bent her legs so the back of her heels met the back of her legs. For a moment, she tried to bring her feet and knees together. I spread her knees apart, just far enough that I could place my head between them, and began kissing the inside of her legs. I moved from her knees, down towards her thighs, kissing, sucking, and nibbling the flesh on either side. Fire begins to relax her leg muscles again and spread her feet outward, fully exposing her hot, wet pussy. Her pale skin is now completely flushed as she is overwhelmed with excitement and desire. Fire spoke for the first time, shouting, "Please, master, I need you inside me, master." Not ready to give her the release she begs for, I grab her hips and roll her onto her stomach. I lift her upward and force her on her knees with her head still laying on the bed, her ass facing the sky, exposed for me to see. I run my fingertips across her cheeks and up her back. I bring my hips up close, pressing against her from behind, so she can feel how rock hard she has made me. Fire's pussy has become so wet, the moisture begins to drip down the inside of her thighs, down to her knees. I reach between her legs and rub my fingers up and down the trails of wetness before reaching in to feel the folds of flesh surrounding her clitoris. I feel your legs start to quiver along with the rest of your body, and you try to move your hips forward so my fingers are closer to the opening of your dripping pussy. "Please, master, I need you inside me," you beg again. "If you move again," I warn, "you will earn yourself a firm spanking." "But master, please." I gave her a firm swat to the right butt cheek. Her nerve endings were wide awake again. I watched as she wiggled her butt in my direction, as if to show me the left side needed to feel the sensation as well, so she could achieve balance. She moaned with delight as I laid down a swat on her waiting flesh. I gave her a second swat on her left butt cheek, and as expected, she wiggled and pointed the right side my way. I reached out and ran my hand smoothly around its ample curve, before raising my hand and firmly laying down another stroke. "Oh my God," she uttered, as she allowed the feelings of pain to turn into the arousal of pleasure. I gently caress your stinging skin while I reposition my body, my hard cock returning between your legs. Using my hand, I move the shaft in circles so the head would spread your flowing juices around every surface of your opening. I press forward, trying to enter the warm, dark canal. It was a tight, snug fit, and I needed to press harder. I reached with my hands and gathered your hair, tightly holding on with my left hand. You intuitively know that I'm not letting go. I grab your hip with my right hand and pull your body closer as I plunge deeper inside you. Your moans become uncontrollable as I continue to thrust in and out. You arch your back as much as you can to allow my erection to penetrate deeper. It's beginning to be overtaken by orgasm. I feel the rush of warm moisture and the tight squeeze of her pussy walls closing tight around my member, as if to try to expel it out. I refuse to pull out. I thrust hard and fast until I erupt inside you, filling your tight crevices with my own hot fluids. Leaving every bit of energy unspent, I roll you on your side so you can recover. Laying close against your back, I keep running my fingertips up and down your body. You keep trying to reach for me, but your hands are still bound above your head. Untie me, you demand, as if you have any control left. I give her instructions. You must say, "Please, master. Please let me have my hands back." She lays there defiantly, refusing to say it. Do I need to make you kneel in the corner until you're willing to beg? I ask. Still nothing. I stand her up and walk her to the corner, turning fire around with her back where it meets the wall. I lowered her down to the floor and shove her knees out wide, the outside of each leg almost touching the wall. I lift her torso upward until her back is straight, pressing her elbows outward, making them press against the walls. I stood back and looked at her, watching her wet pussy continue to drip her remaining fluids. Say it to me, I demand. Beg me to release you. Hearing nothing, I order her to stay in that position, and I leave the room to fetch something that I picked up earlier in the day. Returning, I kneel in front of her and quietly say, "This is your last chance. What will you say?" Fire took a deep, sharp breath in and cried, "Please, my master, please release me." I hold your face with my hands and kiss you deeply, pleased that you've chosen to be obedient and give your whole self to me. I back off from our kiss and tell you, your indecision and stubbornness will not go unpunished. You will remain in place for 5 more minutes after I place this inside you. With that, I slide a vibrator inside your exhausted pussy. It's long and thick, with a piece that extends out to stimulate your clit. After it's inside, I turn on the motor, causing your whole body to tremble. Say it again, I demand. "Please, my master, please release me," you beg. I kneel and kiss you again, rewarding your submission, but you're struggling to breathe as the vibration and stimulation is overtaking you from the inside. Holding you closely, I lower you forward until you're laying on your stomach on the floor, ensuring, though, that the vibrator does not fall out. I slowly untie your hands, warning you of the consequences that your ass will encounter if you try to remove the vibrator or the blindfold. Yes, my master, you're able to whisper. Good girl. I turn the vibrator off and slip it out. I help you stand up, and pull you close again, kissing you passionately. Your hands feel wonderful as they move across my skin. I keep you pressed against me as you explore my body by touch. Come with me, sweet fire. I think we both need a shower. I lead her to the bathroom and turn on the water, ensuring a perfect temperature. I lead her blindfolded, naked body into the shower behind me. Facing her, I finally slip the blindfold off and toss it out. She smiles at me while staring into my eyes, allowing our souls to bind forever.